If you follow my channel, you know that the Zone is my baby. Specifically, this Zone is my baby. Everything about the Zone I absolutely love. The glide, the stability, the feel in the hand, it's perfect. So when they announced the Zone OS, I was a little confused. Like, why would you need something more overstable than a Zone? Like, the Zone even kicked out one of my more overstable mid-ranges out of the bag because the Zone was enough. Well, I picked one up anyways just to see if this is like a completely pointless disc or if it really is just a small hands problem. So let's talk about it. So right off the bat, yes, the Zone OS definitely feels significantly bigger in the hand than the Zone. But I don't think it's because it's that much deeper. Like, if you put them side by side, yes, the Zone OS might be a little bit deeper, but I think the bigger component that makes it feel so much bigger in the hand is that, like, it looks like the Zone OS is just big and blocky. Like, it's like they didn't shave off and curve the edges and they just kept them straighter on the Zone OS versus the Zone. The Zone looks like a very cleaned off, shaven, smooth rim versus the Zone OS being just really big and blocky. And because of that, it definitely feels significantly deeper in the hand. It fills your hand a lot more. So you might have like an advantage. It might be more suited for bigger hands, but I don't necessarily think it's unusable for smaller hands. So if it's not because of the hand size, like, what's the real reason Paul doesn't like the Zone OS? Now, we are going to talk about that, but first I want to show you a disc that is very close to the Zone OS from another company that a lot of people love, and it never really got the kind of hate that this disc did. And while I do that, I'm going to tell you about this video's partner, Mint Mobile. Now, you might already know about Mint Mobile from all those commercials with Ryan Reynolds, like, they're hilarious. Well, Mint Mobile offers premium wireless service for as low as $15 a month without sacrificing any like coverage quality. And that's because they're built on the nation's largest 5G network. Like, I've been using Mint Mobile for a few months now and I've noticed no difference between that and my previous service provider. That's fine. And switching is super easy online, especially if you did eSIM like I did. Like, with eSIM, you can get everything set up and switched over in as little as 15 minutes. And you don't even need to leave the comfort of your home to do it. And I have a special offer for you. If you sign up using my link before July 14th, you can get the unlimited plan, which normally is $30 a month. You can get that for $15 a month for the first 3 months. And all you need to do is go to the link in the description or go to mintmobile.com/Apollo or use the QR code on screen to get started. And you're helping support this channel in the process. And honestly, you might be surprised at how little data you're using with all the Wi-Fi around. Like, I checked my data after the first month and I've only been using about like 4 gigabytes of data a month. So after the promo, I can go down to the 5 gigabyte plan and have $15 a month indefinitely. So you can basically start with those 3 months of unlimited and use those months to kind of gauge how much data you actually use. Then after the promo, you can switch to whichever plan would be best for you. So check out the link to get started. It helps this channel out a ton, and who knows, with all the money you save, you could possibly grab a Color Shift Z Zone from apollodiscraft.com. Now, the disc that I was comparing to the Zone OS was the Sake Bomb Slammer. And while yes, this wasn't as overstable as it on most of those shots, you have to keep in mind, one, this is base plastic. They have this in like a Lucid Ice Chameleon, which I've heard is extra beefy. And two, this is also like slightly beat up a bit because I don't know how to throw a disc. But when the Sake Bomb Slammer came out, like, it never really got as much hate or like didn't divide people quite as much as the Zone OS did. And partially I think it's because like Ricky uses it so much. And I think that's the biggest differentiator between Ricky and Paul, and why Paul doesn't really like the Zone OS. I don't think it's a small hands problem, and I know that was a joke, but I think the reason Paul doesn't necessarily like the Zone OS is because it doesn't fit his game. Those kind of discs have never fit his game. Like, even if you compare like Paul's stint at Innova versus Ricky's stint at Innova, Ricky threw a bunch of like flat top Firebirds. His overstable T-Birds were like very rarely used, honestly. He mostly used those flat top Firebirds. Paul, on the other hand, he was consistently looking for other discs to replace the Firebird because the Firebird was too overstable for him. He had more of a finesse game. He finessed his Rock 3s a ton. He finessed the T-Bird 3s a lot. Even threw like 166 gram T-Birds at one point and just finessed them. Like, he has a more finesse style of player, and if you are that, like this Zone OS, like you might find absolutely no use for it, and it might be that pointless overstability for you. Like me, the Zone, perfect stability, and that's all the really overstability that I need. But I never really got the sense throwing the Zone OS that this is just completely useless, overstable. Like, does it fit my game? Probably not, but it really wasn't like outrageously overstable like a lot of people think it is. And Anthony did mention that a lot of people might be just throwing it nose up, like you're trying to ante it because it's so overstable, and that's a pretty common mistake when you're anhyzering, either backhand or forehand, is like anhyzering with the nose angle up, and that would basically cause like even the flippiest of discs to act overstable. So if you do that with an already super beefy disc, then yeah, I could see why people think that this is just outrageously overstable. But I really think like if you're the style of player that likes to just hammer on overstable discs and flex them and do all of those sorts of things, then I think you could find a use for the Zone OS, and it could benefit your game because you can just crank on this and it's not going very far. It's hooking up left for you. I think it's a great disc, honestly, but Zone's it for me still. I'll have these linked whenever I do get these. I don't have any right now in the store. But I also have some Sake Bomb Slammers. I was shocked. This was fun to throw for sure, but I don't think the Zone OS is too overstable to be useful. Tilt, on the other hand, nobody needs to tilt in their rag.